Hi, this is Mike Allen. I've chosen the Common Core Standard 3.0A, Operations and Algebraic Thinking. Some of the key points of the algebraic thinking and operations are: represent and solve problems involving multiplication and division, understand properties of multiplication and the relationship between multiplication and division, multiply and divide within 100, solve problems involving 4 operations, and identify and explain patterns in arithmetic. The subcategory: represent and solve problems involving multiplication and division. The state standard: determine the unknown whole number in a multiplication or division equation relating 3 whole numbers. For example, determine the unknown number that makes the equation true in each of the following equations. 8 times a blank equals 48, 5 equals blank divided by 3, and 6 times 6 equals blank. My choice for state standard: I chose this standard for it is the next unit lesson in our 3rd grade math curriculum. My 3rd graders have been exposed to addition and subtraction for review of the first week of the new year. Then, next 2 weeks, my class went over the multiplication factors and division quotients of 2s, 3s, 4s, and the second week, 5s, 6s, 7s, and 8s for the 3rd week. The big idea for the Common Core Math 3.0A: interpret products of whole numbers. Example: interpret 5 times 7 as the total number of objects in 5 groups of 7 objects each. For example, describe a context in which a total number of objects can be expressed as 5 times 7. This standard introduces the 6s and 7 factors. These factors are easily used with the 2-skip counting strategies and the distributive property. Students learn to compose multiplication sentences up to the previous decade of 5s and to the next decades of 6s and 7s. For example, solve a fact using units of 7s, such as 7, 14, and then add 14 plus 6 plus 1 to make 21. This strategy uses the associative property, using adding to count bys to solve the problem. Possible activities I'll use with my students. For my pre-assessment activity, I will give my students a simple multiplication and division worksheets of 6s and 7s. This will inform me where all my students' abilities are and for my upcoming multiplication and division lessons. Activities for Tier 1 teaching would be a worksheet that involves multiplication and division for discovering the unknown product or quotient. I will use the multiplication worksheet. On this worksheet, kids are use the information from the word problems to construct and solve multiplication problems in which a single or multi-digit number is multiplied by a single-digit number. I'll also use the division worksheet. This worksheet, the kids use the information from the word problems to construct and solve division problems in which a multi-digit number is evenly divided by a number up to 10. I'll also use the math speed sheet, the 1-minute assessment. On this worksheet, I will time my students and see how far they can go. This will also inform me of their competency. For Tier 2 activities, I would use the manipulatives to describe multiplication sentence for the unknown. This will allow students who find it hard to comprehend text and word problems and that are not fluent in their math skills to use manipulatives to show me math sentences. For my Tier 3 group, I will have simple pictures with the number and picture objects up to the value of the number, which are such as on a large card have the number 3 and below have 3 beach balls. These students will be able to pick out pictures associated with single-digit numbers. For Tier 3 high achievers, I would use large cards with a problem sentence on it, such as 2 plus 19 divided by 3 equals. The first one to correctly solve the problem gets the associated point value for each card. There are 25 cards up for grab. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for my higher end students to play a game against each other and to be competitive. The reason for assessments. 1. Teachers need data. To teach effectively, teachers need to know if their teaching methods are working and how well their students are learning. By assessing the progress of individual students as well as the class as a whole, a teacher can judge if his or her presentation of the subject matter has been successful. Number 2, students need data as well. Students, especially at the elementary level, need to have a concrete, measurable way to follow their progress. Without the yardstick of assessment, whether it is a letter grade, stars on a chart, or simply the opinion of their teacher, students have no way of knowing if they are succeeding or failing. They also have no way of to set achievable goals or make plans to successfully improve their performance. My assessments, these activities which I mentioned previously, will serve as my assessments. The worksheets for the pre-assessment activities will allow me to see the overall knowledge of my students, having for determining the unknown whole number in a multiplication or division equation. From there, I can plan my differentiated plans. For my Tier 1 assessments, the students will work on leveled multiplication and division worksheets. Then they will turn to their shoulder buddy and tell them the answers they recorded. And then the other person will tell their answers to their shoulder buddy. For my Tier 2 students, I will work with them in small groups. These students will use manipulatives to solve the multiplication and division problems for me. This way I can monitor their progress. While their Tier 2 groups are working with me, I will have the higher achievers, the Tier 3 students, work in groups of 2 and play the math game, which I described earlier, solving higher level of Common Core math.